Okay, folks, good evening. Happy whatever hell day it is. Monday, I think? Monday. Happy Monday. Nobody ever says that, happy Monday, unless they're retired. Then, of course, they probably don't know what day of the week it is. Welcome back. We're going to pick up our little T-34 project where we left it, which is working on these later model T-34s for the Kursk period. And that's what we're going to do. Hopefully I will not be coughing as much as I did yesterday. I did go to the doc in the box, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So I guess that's good. But what I've narrowed it down to is I don't do well with a heater, which I already knew that anyways. And I had a rough day at work today because I had the heater running, and actually a lot less than normal. Normally they're always running the damn heater when there's any little bit of cool weather. And let's make sure we do this right. And it seems to be an issue that when my throat dries out is when I start to cough. So if I continually drink things and my throat stays, wait for it, moist, there's that M word that some people have a problem with, I won't cough. So we're going to, before we have to wait till the last minute, we're going to go ahead and cut the stands for the next two. This one, these two, and then the next two that I already kind of prepped. We have a bunch of these to do. At some point I'm going to get tired of these, and we're going to go back to building the model kits. Good evening, Clay. Right now I'm fighting with that model kit, trying to fix that aerial. I'm doing a little bit of it every day. I figured it would be real easy using this weld cement, which I'm a big fan of, to fix that, but it has been quite obstinate. I just might have to resort to the final solution, which is, of course, get a Plastic Soldier Company set of the 8-wheeled half-tracks and take the aerial out of one of them and put it in its place. Because in that kit you can make a 231. Is every one of these lopsided? Sons of bitches. Well, this one will work. Ever so slightly. Well, this one will be too. F it. Okay, there is the 4 bases for those, and of course we keep these. We're going to need these for Kubelwagens or motorcycles with sidecars or... Yay! They fell down! Well, if I felt a little better, I'd be motivated to pick all this shit up, because honestly it's getting out of hand. Or it just looks like everybody else's area. I'm just a little... I distract easy. So I don't like all this chaos everywhere. All right. Where's the clippers? Here we go. We're gonna clip the corners on these things and go ahead and put the goop on them, so that way they can dry. That way that's not holding us up. If something were to happen and I'm extremely productive today, and I get all the way to the point where I can put these on a base, they should be dry enough to be able to do that. So I know people are excited about me doing some tanks with some slogans on them. We'll get there. You just can't start doing all the weird shit first. You know, if you start doing a bunch of T-34s, which were mostly all green with most of the time no markings on them, and the first couple you build all have wacky camouflage schemes, it's going to look like, you know, you don't know what you're doing. But we'll get there. As much as I'd like to do a winter whitewash one, I don't think I'm going to. Oh, did this thing just break? Yay! Made in China! Wait a second, we might be able to replace this. I got a bigger one here I don't really want to use, but I may have to. That's going to screw up the angle, isn't it? Not too bad. These are actually shims I got from work that they weren't using, and they're made to be able to place concrete on them. So they're definitely high strength, and I love them because they're the right thickness. They don't warp. The problem is, if I'm doing something like Panthers or King Tigers or JS2s or JSUs, something that's a little bit bigger than this, they're not going to work at all. So for those larger vehicles, KVs, I'm going to have to come up with something creative that's similar to this. So I've tried ordering this stuff. You can't order this stuff. It's cost prohibitive, or they won't sell to the public, or so we'll just have to find something equivalent. Plastic sheeting that's about 1/16 of an inch thick. Black. It needs to be black, so if something of it shows, we're still left with black. And it hasn't been a priority to find that at this point. Mr. Rick, welcome. Grab your vodka. Here come the Soviets. Here come the Soviets. Just mix it up. We'll go back to the Germans in a little bit. We haven't even delved into the Germans with the yellow, with the dark yellow. Yeah, it's kind of cattywampus a little bit. Not too bad. Well, you know, these edges aren't perfect diameter either. I think hand painting the stuff worked out okay. Some of the Russian numerals are neat. Most of the time they are not. So it's kind of easy to justify that a little bit. But the only time the German numbers aren't neat is when it's like over Zimrit or something like that. Then they really get like all out of whack because the Zimrit's uneven. I'm not a fan of Zimrit to begin with. I think it looks sloppy. Especially since it kind of ended up being a non-event. I believe the story behind it was an anti-magnetic paste that was put on the tank's vertical surfaces. There's no point putting it on a horizontal surface because the point is to get mines from being able to stick to it. So magnetic mines, the Germans had magnetic mines. They figured if the Russians had magnetic mines, they could get them to stick to the vertical surfaces. The horizontal surfaces, you can lay a mine there and it could potentially stay there. So you're not really solving anything by putting putting the paste on, like the parts you would walk on, just vertical surfaces. Well, the joke is the Soviets never had never had a magnetic anti-tank mine unless they captured some German ones. At least that's the story that I remember. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at it in about 20 years, but that was the big joke. The other big joke, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, Scherzen. Those little, the side armor, the hanging side armor. I'm trying to do two things, and I'm the world's worst multitasker. But I admit it. I'm just looking for my sandpaper while I'm talking about Scherzen. Back in the day, Scherzen was supposedly put on by the Germans to prevent heat rounds from detonating on the actual tank. And what I mean by heat rounds is bazookas. And the Soviets had very few bazookas. They didn't have a whole lot. But apparently that's not true. In the last 25 years, now the common knowledge is they were put on, and this makes a little bit more sense, to combat anti-tank rifles. Because the Soviets had a large caliber anti-tank rifle, a 14.5 millimeter anti-tank rifle that was very common. They had it all throughout the war, and it was just a nuisance to take out. It could damage the side armor on German tanks. The side armor on German tanks is pretty light, and Panzer III's, Panzer IV's never had more than maybe 40 millimeters of it at most. So if you add another 15 mil or something like that, however thick Scherzen is, 15, 10, 5, whatever, in between it, it'll lose enough velocity that the anti-tank rifle won't come in and can't really take out a tank with an anti-tank rifle. You can injure the crew that is inside with the anti-tank rifle. So, back when I was modeling in the early 90s, we thought the common knowledge was it was about for heat rounds. Like, that's pretty stupid. The Soviets never had those either. But it seems like since then, the prevailing thought is that they were for anti-tank rifles, which they issued them all over the place. And it's a pretty big round for an anti-tank rifle, because I think the German one was like 12.7 or something like that. So it wasn't. It's big. It's a big round. I mean, it's a 50 cal is a 12.7 round, so it's bigger than a 50 caliber. You felt the need to limit the number of tanks I collected, so now I only have 5 tanks of each variant. Since I now have enough vehicles to clog my table, time to be selective. Scherzen, skirts, yes, but it looks so much better with the umlaut. I only know what I like to call, I only know Blitzkrieg German. I mean, words that have to do with Blitzkrieg stuff. And, I'm not planning on making a set of World War II rules, but if I was, I already have a name for them. Because I actually found a terminology I found a term that I absolutely love. I love the word. It's really, really cool. I would guess that the skirts did a decent job protecting the running gear while traveling through terrain. Yeah, I gotta believe that those things made a shitload of noise, because they just were attached to the tops. They're probably swinging back and forth and. Farfignugan. No, yeah. They stopped doing those commercials here. We came really close to, on our last leases, jumping on Volkswagen. But they just wanted too much. We just don't want to pay that kind of money on a lease. We test drove the Arteon. Beautiful vehicle. Beautiful, beautiful vehicle. But, you know, we got to get 2 cars under the budget that we've kind of assigned. Yes, we could pay more, but, you know, then you just get used to that. And, you know, you got to put some limits on what you're going to do, or, you know, you can't have everything. So not all of us can be Rick with, you know, 3 vehicles per person in a household. The problem is, I'm dead set on never having another automatic vehicle. I do not like automatic vehicles. I like stick shifts. It's like playing a video game. When you go anywhere you go, you're playing a video game. So, all they had for me was some version of the Jetta, which just didn't really do anything for me. And it was just way over budget, those 2 vehicles. So, and the Germans put shit in the wrong place. I'm used to Japanese cars, so, you know, the lights, you turn them one way, you turn them on, and the Germans are backwards, and it's just, you know, I know that's a minor consideration, but it's, you know, at least they know how to put the steering wheel on the right side of the vehicle. I'm sorry, on the left side of the vehicle. Stealth was not a thing with tanks back then. Yeah. Yeah, you like that, Rick, right? I wouldn't mind having 2. Actually, I would like to have a second vehicle that's like an older Japanese rice burner, you know, like a 240 or something like that. That that doesn't have to be reliable. They're just kind of fun to play around with, but you know, it's not a smart decision. You know, I like to buy things and like have no regrets about what I spent my money on. So, like this computer, you know, I'm like, well, I haven't bought a computer in a long time. I hope I get my money's worth out of it. I'm getting my money's worth out of it. So it was a good buy. You know, nothing worse than spending a couple $1,000s on something and then realizing, you know, that's just sitting in a corner not doing anything with it. That's the stuff that brings me down. So, let's get everybody's favorite sound. Followed by everybody's second favorite sound. Or maybe that's flipped for some of you. Anyhow, I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good mood, folks. Thanks for coming on and entertaining. We can entertain each other. Much appreciated. If they could hear you coming in Moscow, then it was not a bad thing if you were German. Yeah, I'm learning a lot of stuff about the Russian front that I didn't know. And that's kind of the period that I like. But there's just so many new books and all doing all the stuff on Audible. And okay, time to get the ground texture, which I damn near need to order more because we're almost out. Anyway, so I was saying, if I came out with a set of World War II rules, I would call them Kampfgeist, battle spirit, because it just kind of makes sense and it sounds cool. And, you know, if you name the set of rules something in German, it's going to be World War II rules, because who started the freaking war? You know? But I'm not, unfortunately. Or fortunately. We're going to roll with, as soon as I find my spatula here, we're going to roll with The Face of Battle, which is out of print. And, I already skipped the step. We got to put the magnet down first. Put the magnets. Anyhow. There's a series that's out on YouTube that somebody told me about. And in German, in German, I don't know what the hell it's called in German. The name of it's super, super long. But it's, somebody described it as Band of Brothers from a German viewpoint. I don't think that's very accurate. It's a bunch of mini movies. And if you do a search in English for Dusty Faces, there's like 10 episodes of this squad, and it mainly focuses on one guy who ends up being a machine gunner. And this is all like around the time period of Kursk and later. And it's nothing great. The story isn't great or anything, but what is great is those guys used either real weapons, firing blanks. They all have recoil. Okay, so none of this, because you'll see this stuff in movies. People most of the time when they're making a war movie, they're using a gun that fires blanks or a fake gun or something that even has recoil, but they're just shooting something and the gun isn't recoiling at all. Like, just pretend to, do some recoil on it to make it more believable. I'm sorry, little things like that are kind of a big deal to me. And, pretend it has some recoil. But those guys, those reenactors, we'll call them reenactors because their equipment and stuff looks really good, did a really good job with that in that movie, in that miniseries. And it's called Dusty Faces. And you can put you can put English subtitles on there. The storyline, like I said, isn't captivating at all. I still think one of the best things I've seen, the best thing I've seen from the German viewpoint is that movie, that miniseries. I guess it's a series of movies. Hey, Nordic, that series of movies that are all tied together called. Here we go again. I forgot it again. Well, I'm not thinking about it all day. Just imagine if I've ever done drugs. Good thing I didn't. I do caffeine. I forget what it's called. It'll hit me in a second. Generation War. There it is, Generation War. That's the best one from the German viewpoint. I watched it again. I saw it with Mitch the first time, and I was like, yeah. And I watched it again on my own, and I had forgotten most of it, which was wonderful. I forgot who survived and all that, and I really, really liked it. It did a good job of... It did a really good job of kind of showing what was going on without being like uber apologetic. So I really, really liked it. Just saw it was on Prime Video and going to watch it again. Yeah. You liked it too then? I thought it was good. I like foreign movies. I like foreign movies because they generally have people you don't know. And because you don't know who they are, you don't have this built-up opinion of like, well, that's not the kind of, he's not really fit to do that guy because I always see him play this. Well, you've never seen him play anything else, so there you go. Why do you cut the magnets undersized? Okay, 2 reasons. It's huge. It's a huge waste of time trying to get them the exact same size. And if they're far enough in, you can't see that they're not straight, and it gives you a little bit more room to pick them up. And that's why, I cut, that's the only reason I do it on these. On like my DBA stands and stuff like that, it goes all the way to the edge. But I just decided to do it this way, and it kind of works for me. The bad thing is these magnets, these are cheap, made in China, whatever magnets you get on Amazon. They don't have a whole lot of strength. You couldn't like stick these tanks on the side of a refrigerator and play on them like you could with my DBA stuff. And but that's why I do them undersize. And it saves a little bit of magnet. But the main reason is I didn't want to have to be so precise to get to the end of that. There's a reason for everything. Sometimes it's not a good reason, but there is a reason for everything. All right. 4 stands for the Soviets. This is a spare one. We don't let it go to waste. Because why? Why be wasteful? Where is my device? Here it is. Yeah, this is just prepping this so that when we get to this stage, we don't have to be like, oh, now I gotta wait for this stuff to dry. Yeah, so Generational War is great. Dusty Faces isn't bad. It's not bad. It's great from the equipment and stuff that they have, but the storyline is just garbage. It's not very captivating, you know. But it's much better than the Russian stuff, because the Russian stuff is just... It's just hard to be sympathetic. You know, most of it is like, you know, it's all like, everything's hunky-dory, and then the Germans show up and it's all hell. You know, it's like, you know, oh, Stalinist Russia, oh, everything is just like a, you know, it's like a dream. Uh-huh. Yep. So, it's kind of like those, you know, too much propaganda. Think I will work on some photo etch parts for the hood while the stream goes on. Ah. Which version do you have of the hood? Because originally she had, for a secondary battery, she had 5.5-inch guns. And I think at some point they switched them to 4s. The 4 dual-purpose ones. I can't remember if that was pre-war or not. If it was pre-war, well, then you probably had that right version, but... Stuff that you learn by being a naval wargamer. Okay, 1 down, 3 to go. Yeah, Hood's longer than Bismarck. Hood was like, I think, the longest ship until the New Jerseys were built. Yamato maybe a little bit longer. Maybe a little bit. I mean, obviously, width-wise, that thing's a monster, but the New Jersey class, the Iowa class, those are the longest ones. 887, I think, or something like that. Which, you know, it's funny. We cruise a lot, and any cruise ship we've been on would just dwarf, you know. I mean, the last cruise ship we went on was like triple the displacement of the Yamato. It's like, you know, crazy, you know. Hey, all that alcohol weighs. Okay, back in a minute. Going on photo etch and stuff. Yeah, I've had very limited experience with photo etch. And the experience I've had, I've liked. The only thing I don't like about photo etch is you have to use super glue or something like that. And I'm not a super glue fan. Only because of, it has no flexibility. You know, it's just extremely brittle. So, you get any kind of flex in it, it's just going to pop. There's a vendor at Historicon that sells a bunch of videos and stuff like that. I can't remember. Is it Bell and Blade? Might be Bell and Blade. And they always have a bunch of movies going on. And they only have like the action sequences of all the movies that are going on. So if the movie is like boring as hell, you know, the coolest action sequence, they're usually playing that to entice you to buy it. It makes sense. That's what wargamers want to see, right? We want to see stuff in action. What would it look like if, well, there's your movie. And one of the movies they always had was a series, I don't remember what it's called, but it's actually on Amazon. I tried watching it, and it's like made in like, I want to say either the mid 70s or late 60s or something like that. But it's a Soviet film that I guess follows these guys around and has different scenes all the way through the war and stuff. I tried watching it. It was just so much just bullshit propaganda, feel good, communism, feel good communism. And, I wouldn't want to see that if it was a German film, making like, oh, poor Hitler, just tell it how it is. But anyhow, this particular scene that I remember was like at Kursk or something like that. There's a German tank and a Russian tank. They knock each other out, and the crews both bail out of the vehicles in between them. And they start like hand-to-hand fist fighting and stuff. I never made it to that point. I was still stuck in 1941 and they were trying to recruit the guys, but, Today's cruise ships would make awesome troop ships if you have a week to spare. Yep. So, not to burn my own boat, because I don't like to talk about things before they happen, because then I have to explain why they didn't. We're supposedly going to go to Europe in about a year. And we've booked a cruise, like 11 days or something like that. So we're doing like Venice, someplace, I don't remember where it is, Dubrovnik, somewhere between Venice and Dubrovnik, I forget where it is. And then it goes to Malta, 3 places in Italy, Marseille, 4 places in Spain, and ends in Lisbon. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do that. And it's on a ship we've been on before. We actually were on the maiden sailing of it. So it is a ship that's about 12 years old, which is pretty old for us. We usually, we don't go on ships that are more than 1 or 2 years old. But that's one, I normally go for the ships and the entertainment, and that one will be going for the destination. So literally like every day will be somewhere different. So we're planning on doing that, and you have to book it that far in advance, and it's pretty affordable. Really? Who the hell are you? Who's starting trouble down here? I don't even know what that was. Might have been the thing that rotated. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully the Europeans don't put a bunch of restrictions on travel and stuff, or we won't go. I'm not wearing a mask on vacation, so I just won't go. Not my idea of having a good time. So we'll see. If not, like I said, I'd rather communicate with people from Europe through this menu and never see them in person than the other way around. I'd rather talk to folks or interact with folks in this way. We will see. But it's just going to be get a little bit of flavor of different places and realize where you do want to go back and where you don't want to go back. I wish you could work Greece in there as well, but, it's not design your own cruise ship thing. So, ideally it would have been Greece, Italy, and Spain. But the olive oil cruise. Some of us are not worth seeing. Some countries or some of you? We call them the French. Oh, don't be bad-mouthing the French. This is how I think about the French, okay? And I mean this in true seriousness. You can't judge the people of Paris the same way you can't judge the French by the people of maybe Paris, the same way you can't judge Americans by people in New York. It's a big country, and people that live in big cities are basically assholes, I think, the world over. So, and it's just the nature of, dog eat dog. I think there's decent people in everywhere. Now, if they're in a battle with my Spanish, I don't like the French. But short of that, I got no problem with them. I'm not eating those damn snails, though. No. But there's people everywhere in every country that eat things that shouldn't go in your mouth. And snails is one of them for the French. Scotland's pretty much everything, except scotch, or whiskey, as they like to call it. Oh, man. Somebody's asked me, why don't you do French in World War II? Simple. The campaign's not long enough. No, that's actually not the biggest reason. The biggest reason is that the French are cool. Okay, the French have all their vehicles are really, really interesting. But when you're talking about the German vehicles in that time, none of them have the turret baskets. They just look stupid. They just look dumb. And I don't like playing the Germans when their squad doesn't consist of squad leaders and assistant squad leaders with MP38s or 40s. If they're still carrying rifles, it's a little too early. That's it. Now, I do like the field gray top and the stone gray trousers. I think that looks good to have that little differentiation. But that's the only reason I don't do France in 1940. If I did World War I would do French and German. I wouldn't do British. I'd do French and German. And I'd do early war, so you could do the French and the impractical two-colored, the blue and the red tunics. It's impractical. Okay, I don't care. It looks neat, So. Okay. Yeah. Don't judge Americans by people from New York. I mean, maybe that's the kind of Americans that you like. In that case, we won't get along. I'm gonna be there in a week, and I've been there before, and it's a neat place. You just got to get rid of everybody. But it's just like when you go to Miami. Miami's beautiful. You get down there, and it's just like dog eat dog. Everybody's an asshole to each other. It's like, I don't want to live in that kind of a place, Just too difficult to get going from point A to point B. Like, everybody's your enemy. It's like, I don't have time for that. Not my kind of life. Okay, back to the worker's paradise. Don't judge Americans solely based on those from Florida. Ha! Yeah. You don't like Florida? Get out. I'm super defensive about my state. I just don't like the weather here. I don't like how hot it is. Like, the weather today is awesome. I don't like the weather here most of the day, unless you're at the beach. I don't like sitting around and, Hoffman Samatobin. Excellent. You're back. Good. Because I have a report for you. I turned around. Oh, shit, on a shingle. There we go. I got excited. You showed up and I got excited. You showed up and our fingers got dirty. Whatever the hell that means. You told me to watch a couple things. Oh, and same thing with Kevin. I haven't been able to watch that, the quartermass thing. It's not available. It's not available anywhere. You only been to Orlando was during late June. That's the wrong time to go to Orlando. February is when you want to go to Orlando. Or January. I haven't been able to watch that quartermass thing because it's not available for those of us in the States. I didn't feel like buying it. So, but I did watch the thing on the formal board or whatever the thing that you recommended. And I've got some comments about it. And I was scared to listen to it because I didn't want to put ideas in my head. But I get what you're saying. I was 12 and it was a free trip to Disney for a week. Yeah, Disney's not a vacation. Disney is like, torture. Everything's difficult. Thing on the formal board. Yeah, that's what it is. And it was interesting. I think it would have had the same effect on me if I was a kid. And the reason why is I started to think about it. It was almost like treating this almost like a poetry assignment You know, why do you think this or why do you think the other way? So when you get introduced to that, there's like only one person you know, and it's the narrator. And you kind of grow comfortable with him and kind of like you feel like he's on your side. And then he ends up being the guy that betrays you. And then you think, well, if a guy that I thought was on my side like betrayed me as the listener, well, I mean, anything's possible. So yeah, it was interesting. I appreciate that recommendation. And it would have had the same effect on me if I was a kid and I'd listened to that the first time. You know, because when you're a kid, you're like, okay, adult, I can count on this guy. You know, you need people you can count on. And it's like, oh, if you can't count on anybody, if this guy's a traitor, so to speak, you know. Yeah, that would have bothered me as well. But I haven't been able to see the Quartermass thing. Although I did read what it was about, and I am intrigued to watch it. So we will keep an eye out for it. Here it is, Dark Sand. I did find it interesting. And it was very well done. And like I said, that's kind of my review on it would have affected me the same way. You got one guy you can count on, and he freaking ends up being a loose end. You know? He was sleeping with the enemy. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of traitors. You know? I'm, yeah. I thought it was really well done. I actually liked the way it stopped, and instead of him describing the conversation, the guy came in, the other voice came in and had the conversation with him. I thought it was pretty cool. So, you know, the funny thing is, I'm listening to that, and you know what it reminds me of? And they probably got this idea from that episode, was I used to watch Johnny Quest, you know, the old Johnny Quest cartoon with my dad. My dad was, there's a couple things I remember watching with him, and that's one of them. Hogan's Heroes is another one. My dad's kind of like a university professor guy, so he wasn't like, you know, he wouldn't play war games and stuff like that, but I got my love of history from him. And even though he wasn't a history teacher, he was really well-rounded in a lot of stuff. And he enjoyed Johnny Quest. And there's that one episode where they're on this island, and I forget exactly how they get there, but they have this creature that's made of electricity, and they can't deal with it, and it's invisible, and they end up like basically throwing paint on it. You could see it, and it's like a blob with one eye or whatever, and they eventually find a way to, you know, take care of them or whatever. But I'm sure they got that idea from that short story. That's the first thing I thought of is, while I'm listening to that, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of that invisible electro creature from Johnny Quest. You know? What's my favorite early war vehicle? I don't know. Because I have so many. I don't know. I have so many. I don't want to dodge the question, but define early war. Before Barbarossa? Well, let's break it down by nation, okay? Because it's probably a little easier than that. Dark Sand, we're going to do. I'm looking up, you've seen that episode. Yeah, I thought it was a great show. Some people would say, that wouldn't fly now because it had one guy named Haji. People need to get thicker skin, okay? People need to get thicker skin. Anyhow, I liked that show back when I was a kid. If you say early before Barbarossa, I don't like any Panzer threes or fours without the turret storage thing. So you talking early war, those guys are out. Okay. I like the German 8-wheeled armored cars. I think they're pretty cool. I think the Panzer twos are cool, even though their gun sucks. I think German half-tracks look cool. Most of the German equipment looks pretty good. There's exceptions to it. Of course, there's exceptions to everything. But most of the German stuff looks pretty good. I love British cruiser tanks. I do, especially Crusaders. They're just beautiful. I don't care if they're a piece of crap. I don't care. I like cruiser tanks. And the same thing, I like the slow ones too. I think Matilda 2s are awesome. For the Russians, I love BT-7s, especially the 7M, or as some people call them, the BT-8s. I think they're a sleek-looking vehicle. Again, I don't care if they're a piece of crap. I'm just talking aesthetically. The T-50s that they made only a few of, those are a good-looking vehicle. The French, I don't know that I have any favorites. Charbis are a little too lumbering. I don't know if I have a favorite French vehicle. They're cool looking though. They have a shit ton of armor. One-man turret is just a failure, you know, but because even the S-35, which was technically a good tank, I think it had a one-man turret as well. So that 47's better gun than anything the Germans had. By nation, 39 to 41. Okay, well, the U.S. is out. Although I like Stewarts. I like Honeys. Honeys are sweet. The Brits have a way of taking American stuff that just kind of isn't very exciting and putting a paint scheme on it that makes it exciting. They just really do, at least for my taste. I think they do a good job of that. Who else did we forget? Italians. I actually wouldn't mind doing some Italians, but I think their armored car was pretty decent. An AB-41. Got a light tank called the L6. It's pretty good looking. Not the little tankettes that you could flip over. Japanese. They make like a little hat. They make like a staff car. I forget what it is, and it's very, very cute. I happen to like the Hago. I think the Hago is adorable. I know that's not a very important thing in a tank, but they really are very cute. And not very good. But I really do like the BT-7s. They're a good looking vehicle. Oh, did you see that one battle? You probably didn't catch it. Where I was playing, I kind of did a pickup battle where I had a battle in a factory and I played the Soviets and I played with an AI helper. That was kind of cool. And I ended up bringing in the one Su-100Y with the 130 millimeter naval gun. And yeah, I like that thing. I like that thing a lot. But I also was playing it like it was the only one that was ever going to get made. So I was extremely like careful with it. You know, as I knew it didn't have good rate of fire. But yeah, getting hit by a long 130, yeah, you're toast, you know. What's your favorite warship of each major nation of World War II? Again, it's so difficult. I gotta go with battleships, man. I like the big ships. It's not that I don't like the little ships. I like the big ships. There's a lot of British battleships that I like. A lot. But if I had to pick one, I gotta pick Rodney. Because Rodney's just unique looking, and she is a beast with 16-inch guns. I don't care that she's slow. Most of the British battleships are slow. Most of them. I'm not a fan of the King George V class ships. I'm just not. They were built modern with an old gun. That 14 just doesn't cut it. If you're going to let me pick, I'm going to have to go with Rodney for the British. But I like so many of the British cruisers that, it's hard. But if we're going to just do capital ships, I really like the way Rodney looks. I really do. And I think I had a model of her in 700 scale to me. I think I did. Germans has got to be Scharnhorst. This is a sweet looking ship. Much better looking than the Bismarck, and just a sleek ship. Just a sleek ship. But I don't have a favorite nation that has ships in World War II as I do World War I. In World War I, I think the German ships in World War I just look badass. They just really do, compared to the British one. Now, in World War II, every nation's got cool looking ships. But World War I really favor the high seas fleet ships, especially like the battle cruisers like Seydlitz. Just a great looking ship. And that's considering they don't have any cool camouflage schemes or anything like that. Now, I would never do a model with, and I know they used them in real life, where they painted one of the funnels a different color. Like I want to say Lutzow or Derflinger in World War I had like a red funnel. I ain't doing that. It looks stupid. I don't care if they did it in real life. It just doesn't look right, Warspite. Yeah, see, that's the problem. Warspite's a good choice too. She was everywhere. She has a great history, but Rodney is just so unique. I like Repulse too. Repulse is a great looking ship. When we're playing war games, I'm very partial to Renown because it has a lot of weaknesses in the armor category, and she's not the most powerful thing out there, so it's kind of nice to have to work around those weaknesses and still trying to win. So, yeah, I like most of the British ships. The French, I'd have to say the Strasbourg. I think those are just really good looking ships. Really good looking ships. The Italians had so many good looking ships that it's really hard to narrow that down. Now the Japanese, not a Japanese fan. I played them, when we did naval, and we did a lot of naval. That's when I really first started getting into World War II, is naval stuff. And I did Pacific against my own wishes because I'm just not interested in it. I'm just not very interested in stuff it's the U.S. versus somebody else. Like, I'm already American. I don't want to play Americans, And it's not me being unpatriotic. I'm just like, I like a little bit of role play, I like doing funny accents and shit like that, I don't like the late war stuff. I don't like the late war stuff because it's too unbalanced. So, I don't know that I have a favorite Japanese ship. No, the Yamatos never got in any action. They're kind of overrated. The other guys are either really old, or reconfigured. A GHQ model came out with a Yamashiro or the Fuso. I forget. I think they came out with Yamashiro, and I made her the Fuso by changing the turrets, and because they're sisters. But they got these two guns that are in the middle, and on one of them they face away from each other, and the other one they face the same way or something like that. So I made the other ship for the one or whatever. I converted it, but they look cool with the whole pagoda mask, but not really a fan of the Japanese theater of operations. They're just not very exciting. Battleship, best value of money, fought all over 2 world wars. Find those Japanese aircraft carrier subs. I think they're called they're I-400s. You know, technically not a warship, but I like the idea of a plane coming out of a sub. Working on 1358, the green hulls and aerial stripes of the Italians. Yeah, the candy stripes. Yep. That's my favorite theater, the Mediterranean. And the Mediterranean, because both sides have battleship possibilities, multiple battleship possibilities. Both sides have convoy intercept possibilities. Both sides have convoy escort possibilities. Both sides have land-based aircraft availability, or, aircraft carrier, or I guess you could fly some out of Malta. I like it the best, How did I manage to do that? There. Jeez, idiot. Oh, time to drink some water. If my throat gets dry, I just have a coughing attack. I feel great other than that. Went to Doc in the Box yesterday because I couldn't take it anymore, and they gave me all kinds of pills and shit. Like, we don't know what you have. Well, I guess that's good. But you got to give me something because I need to get some sleep. And then I came back home about 5 p.m., maybe even earlier than that, and just went to bed multiple times. So I slept from 5 p.m. to like 5 a.m. Not that I was really tired, but I'm like, what else can I do? I didn't stay up working on hobbies, which I could have. All right, and as I like to say, let me put on the glasses and see what I've done. Good Lord. Okay. Yeah, it's probably good. God, this SHQ is so much better than this Skytrex. So much better. Yeah, that's where we're going to leave it at before we go and do the real tinkering on them. Okay, so I'm going to go rinse this brush out. I'll be right back in a moment. Okay, time to paint some boring shit. And by boring shit, I mean road wheels. And by road wheels, I mean we got to get the paint palette that takes up all the real estate here. This is actually what I found from somebody that did a video, is they used dark sand to lighten up the green or the whatever base color instead of white. I would have never tried this had I not seen their video. Now, I kind of deviated from that and other things that I do, but I think this was that was a nice thing. I like how it turned out. I'm happy with that. So, hey, you can learn stuff from people on YouTube. Go figure. Now, we need one that is fine, but not oh so fine. And at some point, I'm going to get tired of these vehicles and paint on some infantry. And I got some shitload of infantry to paint. And, you know, I like working on this and not having to have it done by any certain amount of time. I'm not planning on painting for a convention again. I'm not running this stuff at a convention. I may just play this alone, solo. I don't know. That part's not really important to me right now. I'm just enjoying rereading some of this history and then partaking in it by, you know, playing it. Let's get some. Where'd it go? Here it is. What's it doing over there? Okay, we only got road wheels on the last two here. Got steel ones. Only have rubber on the last two. Got steel on the middle ones. So there's a good chance I probably won't be doing any 15s next year. I'm just not really motivated to do that right now. I've not done this for 20 years, so they can wait a little bit. I don't need to paint any 15s to do anything in 15, so. Well, that's all the road wheels on that. We'll come back and do the machine gun and everything. Let's just do the running gear stuff. I survived. I had these. I normally put these on something where I can grab all the way around it, so I'm not scuffing up the paint. In the last batch of T-34s, it broke off of me, and I just kind of powered on without it, and I didn't feel like I needed it, so I didn't even bother trying to put it on this one. Just moving on without it. Trumpeter 350. Well, if their quality is anything like the S model that's also Chinese, man, those S model tanks were beautiful. It was just absolutely beautiful. Best models I've ever put together. They're better than Tamiya. Just incredible. Okay, and then we've got this saw. That we will end up making metallic. I'm sure some of these tools were on here and then painted afterwards, but you know, I don't want tools to be painted the same color as the hull because it's like, why even bother having them? It just looks wrong. You know, sometimes reality doesn't fit the look you want, so get a little bit of artistic license to do stuff like that. Okay, I think that's it on this guy. Anything on the turret? Nope. Okay, moving on to the other one. Nothing on the turret there. We need to put a hull machine gun. And we got to paint all the road wheels on these, which honestly I thought was going to be a bigger pain in the ass. What's a bigger pain in the ass is if you're building a 1/35th scale one, you have to sand all the road wheels. But even that's, you know, after you've painted these armies that have tons and tons of troops that look the same, that's a bigger pain in the ass. Better get some water. See, I'm not coughing if I stay moist. Man, it's early. Well, I'm kind of restricted to the bedroom here. Bedroom? Well, it's my bedroom now. My painting room. My therapy room. Gotta stay moist. Yeah, I didn't know there was people that had a problem with that word. Like, why? Tell me something good that's not moist. My daughter has a friend who can't stand that word. That's how I found out it was a thing for some people. I'm like, really? Ah, agua. So if I go outside, no coughing. And at work, I cough more than here, so it's a dry air thing, I'm pretty sure. And we don't have one of those vaporizers anymore. Otherwise, I'd run one of them in here. Yeah, but sometimes those radio stories are better than the actual movie. The experience that you had with that Forbo board thing as a kid is probably similar to the one that I had when I was 9 years old and we listened to Mask of the Red Death. And it was the same thing, except it was like a little radio. It was like a little like listening station. You kind of like a recess thing. You could go in and you could listen to different things. And I'm like, I don't know what this Edgar Allan Poe guy is. And I started listening to it. And it was really, really kind of creepy, and was intrigued. It was very Vincent Price type narrated, and it creeped me out, you know. And then many years later, I saw the movie, and I'm like, this is like too like happy go lucky, you know. It doesn't have the same type of effect. So, you know, sometimes the radio programming is better. What you imagine is more vivid than, you know, what somebody might actually decide to show you. And I guess that's what people say, that, oh, this movie is not as good as the book. But I tend to not watch, they tend to not make movies about books that I read. So I haven't been able to compare that like most people have. They're not going to make movies about stuff that I'm interested in reading in. So I can't compare the two things. And I don't really read fiction. So, you recently listened to the radio drama that inspired the Attack of the Mushroom People Matango movie. It was pretty good. I'd never heard of the Attack of the Mushroom People. I guess that's probably horrible for people that don't eat mushrooms. My horror movie would be cockroaches. I would take pretty much anything over cockroaches. I don't do well with cockroaches. The big ones we have here. No. No. So, but I've never, you know, they're not going to make movies about stuff that I read. But I did have an experience that I can compare that to, and that was I decided to read, when I was working on my dinosaurs a couple years ago, I decided to read, or have it read to me, Jurassic Park. And I'd never read the book, and I wouldn't sit down and read it, but I was painting dinosaurs, and I'm like, fuck it. I listened to it. And it was really interesting comparing the movie and the book. And I wouldn't say the book is better. The book concentrated even more on the raptors, which, you know, as a dinosaur fan as a kid, I couldn't care less about a dinosaur that small. I don't care how intelligent they are. That's not a dinosaur. A dinosaur is like a small Godzilla that comes in and destroys shit. That's what I'm interested in seeing. I'm not interested in seeing, a little creature like that. I don't know if there's anything that the book did better than the movie, honestly. The book is a lot darker than the movie. You talking about Jurassic Park? I don't know. It was worth listening to, you know. It was interesting the things they kept and the things they changed, you know. It was interesting about that. So I've seen all the movies. As corny as they are, I think they're better than superhero movies because at the end of the day, you do get to see dinosaurs breaking down shit, which is what I want to see, you know. That's what I care about. So, no tools on this thing. Oh, we got a shitty little cable that's almost non-existent. Let's paint it. Let's paint this non-existent thing. Okay. Now let's get Happy Mr. Nolan Oil out here and do some grading. And put this away. Pretty sure we're done with this for the time being. For the time being. It takes up so much real estate. Nope, that's the new Agrax Earthshade. At least how it kills people. Yeah, pretty much everybody fucking died. Pretty much how everybody freaking died. Yeah. The only nonfiction I've read is that. A couple of the Tom Clancy books. What's the Harold Coyle one? Team Yankee. This book that is awesome. And I'm going to cover over part of the cover. So if you live somewhere that you cannot see the crooked spider, I don't get you in trouble. This is an excellent book. The Berkut. Is this backwards? Yes, why is this backwards again? God bless it. Why is this now defaulting to being backwards? Okay. The Berkut by Joseph Haywood. This is excellent. In a nutshell, it is the last days of the Third Reich, and Hitler fakes his death with a body double, and Hitler escapes. And the Berkut is this Secret Service type of Soviet guy that's tracking him down. So it's kind of like The Fugitive with Hitler, and it's excellent. So I recommend it, and it's not available on Audible, that I know. So yeah, he literally escapes from the Fuhrer bunker, like in the last couple days, and runs and hides in the Harz Mountains, if I remember correctly. It's pretty cool. Historical fiction. So I think that's the only fiction books that I've actually read. There's just too many cool things that really happen to read stuff that's just make-believe. For me, I mean, feel free to, if that's your thing, feel free to read that stuff. I'm just looking at it from my viewpoint. There's just too many cool things that really happen to be worrying about nonsense. But that'd be a good movie if they did it right, but you know how movies are in doing things right. Yeah, I gotta be careful. Can't put those crooked spiders in some places. And one of these tanks that I'm going to do, one of these German tanks is going to have one of them crooked spider flags on top of it. Probably a Czech 38. But we'll have to try to avoid showing that. I don't want you guys getting in trouble. I'm not going to get in trouble. This is, people have a problem with, tough titty, but, I'm not promoting that kind of stuff, but that's what they, that's the kind of shit that they put on them. I don't like those guys. I don't like these guys either, but they fought each other. Okay. Actually, we probably could use some of this on the hinges here. See, I really actually don't want to put any slogans on any of my tanks that say for Stalin. We can just leave that. I don't like mustachioed people. They're trouble. Mustachioed dictators have problems, Short mustachioed dictators. Dictator. So, I'm probably not going to put any slogans that have for Stalin. There's, so many other cooler things you can put on there, Okay, at some point we got to glue the headlamp back on here, wherever the hell it went. Not like I don't have others, but okay, we'll worry about it later. It's up here somewhere. It fell off after I tried putting it on several times. Okay, track time. As this color used to be called, SS Camo Black. Now it's called something different. It's called German Camo Black Brown. Well, you know why it's called Camo Black. It's one of the colors in their camouflage smocks. And I actually have a series of short stories that this guy was a local author. He made this book in the early 90s. His name was Russ Schneider. And he lived around here. And he had a small publishing company in Gainesville here that put his book together. His first book was a collection of short stories, and it's called Tales of Madness. And it's something like Tales of Horror from the Eastern Front or whatever. And it's all like, this guy was apparently like a history buff. Might even be a history graduate or something like that. I don't know if he had a doctorate or anything like that, but he definitely was a fan of the Eastern Front. And he put together these short stories, about 8 or 9 of them in the first book, that from varying viewpoints of basically horrific tales of things that could have happened. So they don't use like real people in them and stuff like that, and they're really tactical type things, like there'll be like one where they encountered like these Germans encountered these Russian tanks that had skulls and stuff on them, where they had taken the skulls of the people they'd knocked out, and things like that. It wasn't supernatural horror. It was just like just horrific stuff that happened. And I haven't read him in a long, long time. And his first book is out of print. I think you can get it. Somebody was trying to sell it a few years ago on eBay it's a soft back book. Was trying to sell it like on eBay for like a couple $100 or something like that. And it's a book that originally was like $25 or something like that. But I was working at a hobby store at the time, and he came by and he wanted to see if he could put some copies out to sell them. I bought one. And he came up with a second one again that was called, I don't know what it is, but they're both out of print. And he actually was big enough to get a book published by the Military Book Club. About the, actually his second book is called Demyansk. And his last book was the one that was published by the Military Book Club, was about the siege of something or another. I forget what the hell it was. Not a big fan of sieges, but yeah. So I want to go through them and read them, but they're not available on Audible, so I got to read them, old school style. Like actually read them and see if there's some scenarios that I can, get out of there. But it was neat. I remember liking it. It was kind of unique. And I don't remember that the graphic stuff was like way over the top, but definitely the stuff that would cause morale checks kind of stuff. There wasn't no supernatural. It wasn't like, they fought like Nazi zombies and stuff like that. It wasn't anything like that. It was all, barbaric horror. So, because they have several movies on there on Netflix and stuff like that. That's like, they find this hidden bunker and it's got these Nazis who are making zombies and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, that's not worth watching. Or zombie Nazi spacecraft, and just come on, man. There's enough really interesting stuff, anyways. That, you might as well make believable shit. Stuff that's even like past Wolfenstein. Just like, come on. So I finally got around to seeing a movie that I've been wanting to see for a while. I talked about it earlier, but you guys weren't on, so I'll bring it up again. And my daughter, coincidentally, wanted to see it as well. And called Jojo Rabbit. And I had heard some good things about it. It had pretty good reviews. And we sat around and watched over a couple evenings. And I don't think I liked it. I just don't think it was worth my time watching it. It was, there were some humorous parts. But for the most part, it was... a lot of it seemed very Kelly's Heroes-ish. First of all, it had a lot of non-period music in it. That's always a deal breaker for me. I know it's not supposed to be a serious movie, but still, they could have done away with that. My daughter kind of didn't care for it either. But go figure. It. I don't watch too much stuff. That by that Watiti guy. Yep. Not a fan of his style. I didn't know that he had a style, but he does play Hitler in it, and I don't hear anybody... The first thing when I saw that he was playing Hitler, I'm like, I didn't hear anybody complaining about him culturally appropriating the German culture. No, nobody wants claim to Hitler. I don't blame him, Oh, man. Gotta go to bed. Good night. Good night. Yes. Not a fan of his directed episodes or movies, beside the vampire one. Yeah, I don't really follow directors very much. Like you'll know who the actress is, the director. Yeah, I couldn't tell you anything he does. I know he does some Marvel stuff and some stuff with Disney and I don't remember what he does. Was he involved in the? He might have been involved in the Boba Fett thing. You know, I don't know. I can't keep track of all that shit anymore. Stuff comes out too quick, and seems like everybody's just in a hurry to make shit and doesn't. Storylines aren't proofread enough. Game designers and directors are the people you tend to follow. Game designers. What game designers do you like? I can't say there's a game designer that I'm just like gaga over, but then again, I haven't played that many different games. Marcus Childress, can't watch long tonight. Will enjoy a short break? Okay. You're the one that's up in New York City, right? Is that Complete Strategist worth going to, or is it just basically a glorified comic book store? I want to be like a block from. We're going to go to the Empire State Building, so that's only half a block away from there, assuming they're open the day that we go. I really would like to go to a hobby store that has 1/72nd scale stuff. Not that I need any of it, but and I think I tracked one down in Connecticut that we're going to go right by because we're going to spend 3 days in the city and we're going to go 3 days up in New England. So I think we're going to go right by it. But, you know, they're kind of a thing of the past. And you know, I got a lot of books on these Russian tanks, but I honestly rely on the internet. I go to the internet first. I go to Pinterest, get ideas. You know, I've got some stuff that I pinned for. Repeat the name of the shop. Yes, you're in New York City. Complete Strategist. It's on 34th Street. It's like a half a block from the Empire State Building. It's been there a long time, and it's just like an alleyway of a store. I mean, it's just, well, it's got to be. I mean, rent there would be, you know, prohibitive. You know, so it's been there a long time. It's kind of a staple there, so I understand, but I don't need any miniatures. I certainly don't need more games. You know, I'm good with what I have. Probably just go there to say that I went there. I want to go to a hobby store that has like 1/72nd scale armor kits, and then, you know, decide which one I'm gonna. I don't need any, but I'm gonna take one with me because I'm here. You know. God, the SHQ is so much nicer. Although I hate the SHQ figures, I really do. They are just not exciting at all. They're all like in the same pose, same poses, same looking guy, same equipment. You know, it's not like some guy is not missing a water bottle or everybody's got the exact same, you know, marching equipment. They're just not inspirational at all. But apparently their vehicles are okay. Although I'm fine with plastic vehicles. I don't have a problem with them. One thing I got to remember is this trip. I went in 2003. Stay hydrated. That killed me last time. Because we ended up We were staying over near Columbus Circle, and we took the subway all the way to Statue of Liberty. My first time in New York City. Went to Statue of Liberty, came back from the ferry. We're down there over by, the docks or Battery Park or wherever it is. We're like, let's just walk back. Which, it's just walking. It's not that far, but it is pounding concrete. And it is, however many blocks, 60-something blocks. And I didn't want to buy a water because they're like $5 each. So I got to end up getting dehydrated. When it's cold, you're not as thirsty, but you still need water. So we'll be buying the $5 waters. I don't give a shit. Because I ended up getting they have the heater blaring everywhere. And I'm like, I'm from Florida. The heaters, I hate heaters. Just hate them, Just, you're already dressed for the cold weather while you're outside. Why do you got to make it like 74 degrees inside? And it kills all the humidity and, You do all your shopping online now. Yeah. Yep. Heard you mention Brookhurst at one point, and I do like that shop. I get the LA area a bit. In the early 90s, we used to joke that they would send it to us before we got there. So we would, back when we were doing World War II stuff, some of these MMS stuff that I have is from Brookhurst. And we'd order it on Monday, and on Thursday we'd receive it here in Florida. Your favorite white metal is AB figures. I don't have any. I take that back. I did come across some. I don't mind them. I don't have very many. I got into this scale because of Dave Alsop's sculpts for combat miniatures, which who knows who the hell has them now. But they used to be Hotspur, and then when I got a hold of them in the early 90s, they were combat miniatures. And that's what got me into the scale, is just the personality of those figures. And I really, really, really like his style. So that's what really got me into the scale. But there's many manufacturers that make 20 millimeter stuff that I absolutely hate. I hate Britannia, where everybody has this oversized head that all looks the same, whether you're a Desert Rat or an Africa Corps, or you're on the Russian front, or they just always have that same face. I don't like SHQ because I don't have enough detail. FAA has these huge, huge, huge cheekbones, and these rifles that don't look like rifles. Sometimes they're like tubes. I can tell you because I have some of them, unfortunately. Because that was back when you would order them. These guys make a bunch of squads. Let me order a bunch of packs. Oh, son of a bitch, what did I get? Well, I won't order from them again. I did like Drew's Militia and Battlefield and whatever they became. I have a bunch of those figures from their Stalingrad range that I got 20 years ago, and they're out of production now. And those will be some of the figures that I will paint coming up. So the Battlefield, Drew's Militia, I forget. I can't keep track of them anymore. They got bought out by, Blitz, Battlefield, and Drew's Militia. They're all like the same sculptors somehow, and those have a lot of personality. They're cool figures. I know you like plastics, but I'm keen to try PSC's new figures. Well, I'm going to try some when I ever get any of their vehicles. I'll probably paint one of their commanders and see how it is, AB also has all their figures that look like the same guy, but the features on that guy are kind of vague. It's not like... It's like, for instance, if you had a sculptor that's going to sculpt Soviet figures, you're going to have a whole line of Soviet figures, and we're going to use the same head on everybody, and you pick somebody's head like Willem Dafoe, okay? Most people in the world don't look like Willem Dafoe, and he has a very distinct look. So you do not want your entire army looking like a very distinct looking person. like minifigs. If you're doing 15 millimeter, minifigs figures are very vague looking. So if you have a whole army of minifigs guys, it's okay because none of them have really big chins or big noses or sunken this, or they're just kind of just generic face looking guys. So that works. But if you got somebody like Britannia, the Britannia guys are like dwarfish with really big heads, and the face looks like James Coburn or somebody like that. I don't know. It has a very distinct, particular look that is strange. That it's the same guys on the Africa Corps as he is as a Russian on the Eastern Front. You know. Don't use Willem Dafoe as your model for troops. Most people don't look like him. Yeah, I don't like plastic figures, but I don't mind the plastic tanks because a lot of stuff's a lot easier. Like drilling out things, oh man, piece of cake. You know, you could use weld cement. I'd rather use that than epoxy and super glue. You know. All right, we gotta find this little. Thing. I just pushed it off to the side. All right. Time to clear this area because the thing we got to do next now is, we're at this point, we got to pick what markings we're going to put on these two tanks because we're going to do the markings and then we'll do the final detailing, edging and stuff like that, but after the markings are done. And no, we're not going to do camouflage on these two. We're going to still need Russian green out. We're still going to need dark sand. We don't need that anymore. Honestly, I felt like the tracks and the running and the wheels painted really, really quick. Maybe you guys were just kept me entertained. Maybe both. You kept me entertained and it didn't go that slowly. Let's put some of this stuff away. Always a problem of encroachment. Work area encroachment. Pencil. The sanding paper that we always use for the edges. All right. And this thing is painted. If I misplace things, I guarantee a lot of you guys really misplace things because I'm pretty organized. I make a big deal out of cleaning my work area, and I can't handle having any paint on my cutting surface. It drives me crazy. Not even buy this one. This was given to me, but these things are expensive. Hey, I've been poor before. Luckily, this was a long time before, so you gotta be careful with things that cost. These things are, $20 or $30. I don't want to just be throwing them around. I don't know where the hell that headlight went. I just moved it off to the side. It's already painted green. It should be right here. Well, we ain't going to worry about it. So let's take a look at this compared to the finished product of one. So you can see it doesn't take that much more highlighting on there. I did pen some T-34s that I kind of was interested in. But let's go back to our T-34 dive. Let's get rid of this. You don't need this right this second. Let's go vertical. Okay, and then we're going to do a double switch. Since I was able to figure this out the other day, that was pretty cool. Excellent. Okay. All right. And now I don't have to turn things backwards when I look at them because you're seeing them the same way I am, except they are flipped. There we go. Technology is great when it works. Okay, so let's see if we see something super cool that we can't pass up. This is an old book, but this book is great. This is a really good book. BT-8. Yeah, see here it's called a BT-8. I love that tank. That tank is sweet looking. I don't care if it's a piece of shit. It is sweet looking. Yeah, I don't care about black and white pictures. Okay. What do we got here? Well, we're not going to do a white one right now. This one has the wrong type of road wheels. I'm going to do this one eventually. Or something like that. But we're not going to do it now. This one's not bad as the Chelyabinsk one. But it's not a slogan. You guys want to see slogans, so. I gotta admit, I like the Russian tanks here with this white stripe. I know that was just for Berlin. Looks good. Okay, so we'll leave that one open. That's a possibility. Let me look at my T-34 book. Should be right here. There it is. Steven Zaloga, or Zaloga. Prolific writer. Let's see what we got in here. Yeah, I don't know who the hell painted these. Peter Sarson? Is that who he is? This is 94. Color plates by Peter Sarson. Peter Sarson, you are an excellent artist, my friend. I like his style. Okay, well, we got one of these coming up in the next batch, so this might be the one that I do for that one. We've got two of this style that's coming up next, so we may use that one for that. Okay. I really like the way this looks, but I don't want to do winter camo. Not on the first Chelyabinsk one. And again, this is the one that has like a prayer to Saint Cyril on here. But it looks great. It looks really, really good. There's something magical about the snow. Especially for those of us that live like in a swampland in real life. Really, really nice color plates. Well, that was uninspiring. I could do better than that one picture that I found in the other book, by the way. And I could just invent stuff out of nowhere, but why? This is the... Oh, look, it's Steven Zaloga again. Tell you, he's all over the place. I don't know that he does a lot of German stuff, but he definitely does a lot of, like, Shermans. And I'm not saying he doesn't do. I just don't... I may not have any of his books by that. Okay, this is kind of cool, but that's a later one. Yeah, this looks really nice with a whitewash. I'll probably do one at some point. Well, I like this big ass writing. Here it is again. There's that same one. That's got to be Timoshenko. Yep. This is Model 43, 106 Tank Brigade, 12th Tank Corps, Western Front, Autumn 42. This tank brigade had the practice of naming its tanks after prominent Soviet officials and Russian generals. This particular tank is named after General Suvorov. I guess that's it right there, Suvorov. Hero of the Napoleonic Wars. Some other examples or markings used in the unit were Timoshenko, tank number 174, top inset World War II Soviet general, and Molotov, tank number 169. Stalin's advisor and foreign minister. Okay. Okay, that's not bad for the hard edge one. Okay. That seems to be kind of a winner. All right, now. Ooh, bad trip. All right, we got to flip this. We're going to flip it like this and make sure you see 3212. No. 3212. Okay, we're back in business. All right. So, let me take a look at, let me get the real mouse out here. This mouse pad works good, but sometimes when you have your finger right on it, it decides that you clicked on something when you really didn't. And, you know, you end up going places you don't want to go. So let's pull up my Pinterest, and if I see something really cool, I can put it there on your on the screen there, because I did pick up a few things that look like they could be possibilities. That one that is really popular is that one that comes up all the time, that the brown and the green. It's the Stalinets one from Leningrad 43. That one seems to be everywhere. For whatever reason. Okay. And let me go to my page that we have all the T-34 stuff on. So we're looking for a Chelyabinsk tank with some unique markings on it. And I am a big fan of the ones that have the red star on the side of the turret. It just looks cool. I think it is a nice contrast, and it seems appropriate. I mean, it's hard to find a German vehicle that doesn't have a cross on it. Well, I found another one that I like, but it has a red star on it. One guy that I know was giving me grief. Russian red star was post-war. I said, well, then there's a whole lot of illustrations that are wrong. Hold on one second. I have lozenges, so the coughing will probably go away. Get some moisture in my throat, and it should be good. Oh, I like this one. I like this one. It doesn't have a red star. It doesn't have a... yeah, it's difficult to find these ones that have inscriptions. But then I think I read somewhere that it wasn't that common on T-34s. It was more common on the larger vehicles. I guess you just had a bigger space to work with. Okay, so let me save this and put this one up on the screen. And this is the one that we're going to do first. And we should be able to hand paint all this stuff on here. So let me take this, save image as, yeah, save it as whatever. We'll pull it up in a second, okay? Because we need to have it on the screen there. And then the other one that we're going to do with the Chelyabinsk turret, right? Was this other one Chelyabinsk or? No, it was a standard hard edge. Well, I got lots more hard edges to do. Let's save this one as well. All right, let's pull the first one we're going to do right off there. Okay, Marcus, thanks for coming by. I'm actually going to take a potty break before we bring that up, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, and we're back. We're back. All right, let's bring up that picture. Let's see if I can do that. This should be a picture area there. Yeah, this is a good picture area for that. Let's just replace this picture with a different one. Let's do a browse and find the correct one that we're going to put on the screen there. No. Here she is. And done. Okay, and it's the one here at the bottom, this 14. We're going to put her all the way up here. Now, I don't know what's on that triangle. It's 22 over maybe 14. Doesn't matter. That's what we're going to go with. We'll put that on there. Now, this is on the hard edge. Yeah, not the Chelyabinsk. Okay. So, we're going to go ahead and get our helping hands out here. Let's use this one. It's already towards the bottom. And then we're going to have to jack all the way up, which is not normally how I paint. But we need to get some kind of a height advantage over this. Yep. All right. Now, let's get this way. Then you get a brush you can really count on. And let's get some fresh white. Is this the one we want to use? Is this the one I was thinking of? I think it is. Make sure it's not this one. Every brush is different, but generally liner style brushes tend to work better. Between one of those two, we should be able to make that work. Okay. Now, probably going to need this. How about over there? Okay. It's somewhere you can play with a line before you actually drop it on the tank. You have to fix stuff. Totally fixable, but let's try to do things right the first time. Okay, so in front of this edge, we need to fit a 14 and a little triangle. So, since the triangle is the thing that's the most restrictive towards that one hard edge there, we're going to paint it first. So let's get a little bit more of that. Yep. I don't like how that's turning out. It's not bad. And the 14 goes. And the 4 comes in a little bit in that style. Not quite straight up and down. Put the other vertical like that. So that's kind of what we got. So I'm not going to go into great detail at this point. We're just going to get it kind of in the right place. I'm going to do it the same way on the other side. Obviously a mirror image. And then once we got them how we want them, we can go in and flush them out. Flush out those details so that it looks equivalent on both sides. That's the problem if you're doing a design that's on both sides of the turret. You want them to match. And this brush is actually okay, but it's got a couple of these that are just wanting to be incorrigible. A couple of bristles that are trying to identify as something else. Okay. Now, that's one side. Keep in mind, we haven't cleaned it up. We just want the basic shape. And the other side is like so. I'm pretty freaking happy with that. Okay? I'm so happy I'm going to do the back too. You know what? We'll punt on that one. Okay. So, and that's what this fluid, this airbrush. What exactly is this stuff? Oh, this isn't a airbrush. This is a flow aid, and you're supposed to use like 1 part to 10. I just use it straight. It just helps the brush it just helps the bristles from sticking, and you don't have this almost like you're trying to run it across a brick. Because if you do look at this stuff with a microscope, this is kind of a rough edge that it has. So we're going to come in and we're going to fill this in bolder, and we've got a vertical line that goes there. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And in some ways, it's actually easier to do this by using a paintbrush than by actually, if I had like a pen or a marker, because I can control the thickness of the line. Whereas if you've got a pen or a marker, it's going to be the thickness that it is, and that's that. I can tell you right now, I'm going to be really happy with how this turns out. I mean, like, really happy. I got to remember where the hell the screen is so you guys can see. If anybody watches this later. Hey, if you watch this later, make some comments. Hey, I watched this later and I liked it. Or that's all you're allowed to say. You're not allowed to say you hated it. You don't like it, go to a different channel. Shouldn't watch stuff on YouTube you don't like. Go somewhere else. I don't watch things I don't like. And I dislike lots of stuff. Okay. That's pretty good. Now, we're going to go once more over with a white and bolden it even more. And then we'll come back with green and clean it up. I mean, this is really the part that I enjoy the most. Whether it's doing heraldry, painting the numbers, I feel like I couldn't do the German numbers well enough, because the German numbers are very consistent. They use stencils, and the numbers are of a consistent size all of the time. They're just, I felt like I needed to do decals for that. Okay, I think I actually need to extend this a little bit longer. Okay, now let's go take the green, and we're going to clean this up with the green. Now, I should still have some green that's alive from last time. And this, we got to make sure this isn't too wet, or we're going to end up undoing what we just did. Oh, you're just catching me on the numbers there, Greg. Good morning to you. This one doesn't need much cleanup at all. Now, there is some writing in there. Looks like a 22 and maybe a 34 underneath there. Maybe it was a 14 again. And actually, the white line on that triangle goes past the edges of the triangle. So let's go back over to the white side again and make sure we incorporate that in. Because it's not necessary, but I like to be as accurate as I can. So let's move this as far down as we can so we can rest our wrist on here. There we go. Just extend a little bit further. And do the same thing over here. Find the spot where this is. Oh, dry it out. Where's our happy spot? Right there. Waiting for Lorraine to return from town. We'll have lunch. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, but I've had bigger shoes to fill before. So what we're going to do is, we definitely need some green below it. So we're going to be vague about what it says. Because you can't read it. It'd be too small. Now, we're going to turn around, hopefully not touching that part, and do the rear of the turret. And at the, well, that's unfortunate that it hits that. And at the rear of the turret, we have a 1, a 4, and 2 equal bars. Okay? And a very small area to do it in. All right, so let's start with a 4. And we're going to attempt to do it. And if I don't like how it turns out, then I'm going to put it below that handle. Does a 4 have that little? It's about the same way. It tapers in a little bit. And it's 2 long equal markers. I could paint my own stuff, but why not be inspired by the stuff that's there's an illustration of? How will you adjust your technique when you move on to multicolored vehicles? So let's say this was a camouflage. This was a camouflage, some brown camouflage. I would get up to this stage, and then I would paint where the brown is, and do the equivalent of brown, and then bring them each up one. You'll see it. It's going to come up. That I'm not worried about, because I've done the camouflage before. What I have not done is a whitewash, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I will figure it out, or I will hate how it looks, and I won't have any whitewash vehicles. Because there's some whitewash pictures of things that are done correctly that look like the photographic evidence, and they just look wrong. There's some photographic evidence that looks like if I painted it this way, people are going to think I don't know how to paint, because it just looks too shoddy. Even though it might be realistic, it's not believable. So, okay, now we're done with this vehicle. So, because that's all the markings that it's going to have. It's not going to have a, let's see what this looks like on it. I don't mind touching anything that's green, because we're still going to do some more highlighting on it. This is what this vehicle looks like. Yeah, the number worked really well. It's too small for me to get in there and write those other numbers. So you got to have something written in there, and you got to have green below it and above it. It's got to be kind of centered in where that space is. So that's kind of what you got to kind of do. Now this guy is going to have a slogan on it. But I was reading something today that said on T-34s, slogans weren't that common. And I suspect it's because the area that they had to work with is kind of restrictive. It's a lot easier to put, graffiti on the side of a KV2, a KF2? No, a KV2 than it is on a T-34. So, yeah. Okay, so we're going to... let's go ahead and do the detail work on this thing while we're thinking of it. I can leave the turret on there for the time being. Let's go over to this other corner where we have the... I'm probably going to have to put some more dark sand there. And I'll put some more Russian green here just so we've got some fresh. And now we get to do one of the things I like to do the most. And this is what I like to call forcing the shadows. I'm going to put the edges and the shadows and draw your eye to where I want your eye to go to. And let's make sure we've got some liquid happiness that doesn't have a dark tint in it. I should have changed this thing many things ago, but it's working okay for the vehicles. Okay, and we can go ahead and go here. This is the green color. There's already some of this in the dry brush that it has. Let's just start here and make sure that we are going to go ahead and take the turret off and make sure that we've got these edges that pop. And I just I don't feel a need to put chipping on. I see how other people do it. I think it looks okay, but at some point, it doesn't match the look of my figures. And, I like kind of a combination between realism and graphic novel. So I don't feel a need to do rust or dust effects, God forbid. I'm not a fan of dust effects. Dust effects puts a light color in dark recesses, and it's counterintuitive. So I know there's some people out there who do vehicles and they look better than the real vehicle. They really do. But I'm not really going for that look. So I've been pretty happy with how mine have turned out. They look like what I intended them to look like. And And they don't take too terribly long to do. I could always take a lot longer to paint these than I am. But we have a bunch to paint. And I want them to look consistent with my own painting style. So make little hatches and stuff like that pop. Little edge on the hatch. The thing I think that was the most beneficial that I did is I needed, the very first ones I did a couple years ago, I wanted to paint them overall in like a green color, whatever, and then worked them up from that. But the problem with that is that you got to worry about brush strokes and even coating and stuff like that, and then give them a pin wash. And I'm like, if I just dry brush them, if I paint them black and then just dry brush them, I don't have to worry about brush strokes. I'm not using as much paint. It's a lot quicker. And I get a free pin wash out of the whole thing. And I like how it looks. So that's kind of what I went with. And I've been real happy. And it's easy to do. Requires no airbrush, which means I don't have to go paint in a hot garage. Well, it wouldn't be hot today, but don't have to fight with an airbrush about cleaning it and stuff. But there's some masters out there that make the vehicle look better than the real vehicle. But they don't have 70 vehicles to paint. And remember, on top of this, we're going to be dry brushing some of the dirt colors up from that are included in the base color of this tank. That'll help it kind of grab it all together. The other step that I've skipped, that I did do on the first couple, is gloss coating the entire vehicle. If I'm going to put decals, I'm going to put only gloss coat where the decals go. Because the problem with gloss coating the whole vehicle is it's really easy to get too much. And I've actually had some of it react with some of the other paint and actually crinkle it up. And then I got a problem on my hands. That happened to me on one of the... It's funny because that's never happened to me on figures before. None of my 15 millimeter figures that's ever happened with. But on these vehicles, I think because I'm trying to cover too big an area, I ended up getting too much of it on there, and then ended up like, it created a mess. So I'll dust it lightly with a matte spray, but this you can see it's kind of semi-glossish. That's just because it doesn't have a matte spray on it. And when you do the dry brush of the ground, on up, it'll actually matte the look of the tank quite a bit. So you don't need really to flatten it that much more. So these liner brushes, you have so much more control with them. I really like the liners. Obviously, every brush is different, but generally the ones that have this longer set of bristles I'm a lot happier with for this kind of stuff. Just have a lot more control. Yep, I actually feel like I've got more control with this than if it was like a pencil. Now, obviously, it's a lot more forgiving than a pencil. You can erase any single thing you do here by just going the other color and cleaning it back up. And you do a line that's maybe clear on one end, but it's like bad on the other one. You just come in and clean up the bottom edge. It's really pretty easy. This lighter color can also simulate things that ran up against it and scratched the armor up, but didn't quite get through the paint. So there's a place for a lot of this stuff that could potentially be on the tank. So I like adding some random stuff with this color to help simulate that. And this is some pretty mindless stuff. Just a little bit down there. That area is going to be heavily weathered, so not a whole lot of point in spending a ton of time on it. Now this is a pretty crude model. I suspect these are pretty old. Skytreks, I suspect they're probably from the early 80s, or maybe even earlier than that. And I'm sure there's some inaccuracies to them. But I think they will work just fine. And it's what I have. At some point, you got to work with what you have. All right. I think we should be able to do this with this on it. Let me put my glasses on and step away from it so I can see what I'm doing, as I like to say. Sometimes you get too close to the action to really see what's going on. Now that's even more glare. I'm going through this paint a lot faster than I thought I'd be. That's even with me watering it down. All right. These the turret details are important because your eye is naturally drawn here. So you want to make this stuff stand out. So it looks interesting. We'll do the edge there. Do the edge across the top. Man, we had a lot of people on here earlier and then everybody disappeared. I guess everybody's parole officer came by. Well, now I got to get this guy done. You know, now I'm so far along, I'm like, I've got to get this thing done. That's the point of no return. It's still early. All right, we have another edge here. Let's do the equivalent on this side. All right, this should be a little bit lighter, but not too much so. Okay. Now, again, let me get away from it. And what you guys are seeing is not the same, is not the correct color. It's just, oh yeah. The top of that turret pops out really nicely. The hatches and stuff like that. Let's take the same color, which I think is a little bit lighter than I was using before. Let's touch up these edges of things that would really pop out when you went to go look at this thing. And this will help because when you end up doing some of the light dry brushing, these are still going to stand out. I did that specifically like on some of the Mark IIIs and Mark IVs. Their turrets are really complicated. And there's a spot on some of the Mark IVs where the top of the roof tapers down. And there's a little bit of a height change. So I wanted to accentuate that line so that it wouldn't get lost. If you don't paint something, if you don't force the perspective, you're going to lose that little bit of line there. And I did the same thing with that. I added a little bit of color like this, lighter, drew a little line across it, and it just kind of catches your eye on it. Same thing with some of the subtleties of the turrets on the Panzer IIs. You know, they've got all these angles. The Germans just make things really, really complicated sometimes. So you want to have all those little details stand out, that you could appreciate all the little shapes that those turrets have with those multiple plates that made up their construction. And you can do that by just dropping a little line on there. There's just a lighter color that just kind of helps fool your eye, or get its attention. We don't want to make this look like you just spray painted it green or gray or whatever. No. Same thing with here. We have this line on this hull. We want to make sure that this thing stands out. It's a significant change of the angle there. Okay, and we're going to put some scratches on here. That's as Jackson Pollock as I get. You could always come back and add stuff. If you go to the next step, you're like, man, it just doesn't look enough, whatever. Remember, we're going to have weathering on here as well, so it's not going to be significant, but there is going to be some, and it will add some highlighting to it. Now, one thing I'm going to do before I get any further is we're going to put a little machine gun in there. Let's make sure we grab the right glasses or it won't be helpful. And there should be a piece of sprue just waiting for me to call upon it. And as soon as I get a pair of tweezers, we can pick it up, maybe. Well, that one's not going to do it. We need the fine ones. Not those. Here we are. Also not these. All right. These should work. Okay. All right. And we want pretty sharp. Let's check the depth on this. I suspect it's not very deep at all. It's not. Okay. The machine guns on the Russian tanks did not protrude very far. Something like that. We're going to drop a piece of super glue. Not try to put it directly in the hole. It won't work. Might work for you, won't work for me. I hate rounded things. I want my other tweezers. And the sad thing is those are original ones. I bought this other set and they're kind of, here it is. I want to pick that up. I'm not getting paid right now. I don't need to bend over. Okay. I don't like to bend over when I'm not getting paid. All right. Put this in here with a dollop. There it is. Okay. This thing's pretty much ready to go to the weathering stage. Now, the other thing I kind of discovered by accident is that if I hold this barrel enough times by the edge of the barrel, it's going to be really hard for anything other than almost like black paint to be left on it. So there's your free powder burns on the end of your barrel. Don't even have to create them. They're done for you. So let's compare with the other T-34s. Now keep in mind, these T-34s are sprayed, so it does change the color of them a little bit. And I'm mainly looking for like details stand out. And I think that they're probably equivalent. All right, let's put this away and let's weather this thing all the way up. How is this goop doing? We dry enough to be able to paint it? No, we're not going to be able to put them on the stand tonight. That's a task too far. Okay, so we're going to get the colors that end up eventually being up on the tank itself. Your internet went down a bit. Oh, you missed it all. Oh, you missed it all. Anyhow, that doesn't look very impressive right now because you guys aren't seeing the right color. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. And you seeing this color here, how it's lighter? This is the shine off the kickback off the light. So I really needed, you guys aren't really seeing the whole thing, so unfortunately. Exposure offset. That's probably a little bit more accurate, but it's kind of hard to say. This is the same method that we did with the other ones. So we're going to take the colors that are in the groundwork and we're going to bring them up onto the tank. Okay. For that, let's use one that's already been violated, so to speak. And the colors I use is my standard colors that I've used for my DBA armies that I started off with, which is chocolate brown, US field drab, and Iraqi sand. I'm not going to do chocolate brown. It's too dark to bring onto the tank. That's the one that I'm going to go ahead and just move this guy off the screen there. Okay. So we're going to start with US field drab. So we're going to put some US field drab on here. And we're going to dry brush our way up. Let's make sure this is cleaned because we want this thing performing well for us later on. Take a sip of water. Jesus, I've almost been here 3 hours. Man, time flies. Okay. So let's get a dry brush. This one should do just fine. And you start with a running gear, so that if you go too thick, no problem. It's the part that's the dirtiest. Now remember, you're going to have to still go up one more shade, so you don't want to go, you need to leave yourself some room to be able to dust up some more now. Some of these vehicles were extremely dusty, the bottom portion, extremely so. So especially this back area. This thing's moving at speed. It's going to kick up this stuff all in this area right here. Okay. Start with a running gear. Okay. And then on the turret, obviously we don't want to undo every single thing that we did. Now, as I like to say, let me step away from this thing. Okay, that looks pretty good. I do have to do two things, which is to paint the mufflers. I didn't do that. And to paint the machine gun, and to paint the headlight as well. Maybe it's more than two things. Okay, so we're ready to switch to, you know, and it's not perfect, as you can see, the running gear here, if you look at the edge, one side is kind of crooked. I have a broken one on one edge. So I just decided, hey, I'm going to do it. Maybe this thing's all ganked up anyway, so. Yeah, it is just a war game model, and I wanted to use some of these that are broken. You know, these are all from a estate sale from a gentleman that passed away, and he had a shitload of T-34s to do. So, I did not know them, but hopefully I'm doing them justice. And it's funny because if it had been a bunch of 15mm stuff that he had, oh, you know what? This is picking up some of the other color. I'm going to go ahead and rinse that. If it had been 15mm stuff, it probably would have flown off the shelves. Because a lot of people in Florida play Flames of War. And do that sort of thing. I am not interested in that. So, you happen to have 20mm stuff. All right. Same thing. Make sure you do the running gear part stuff first. A bit of coughing? Oh, hell yeah. I've had a cough for over a week. I finally went to the urgent care because, of course, it happened on a Sunday where I had enough. And they can't figure out what's wrong with me, so did all kind of tests, and I'm on steroids and antibiotics, and I feel great. I just sound terrible. Haven't had a headache. And as long as I'm drinking something or I'm eating something, if I stop eating, I have a bad cough attack. Now, it's better today than it was yesterday, but bad coughing. But my lungs are totally clear and can't figure what it is. So I'll have kicked some other disease in its ass and I won't even know the name of it. Isn't that a shame? Yeah, I couldn't take it anymore. I was pretty... Watching your videos that I did yesterday, I'm coughing real bad. But felt fine. All right. This should be pretty close to the final product. Man, the lighting is a problem for you guys. I don't even look anywhere near it. Yeah, the Iraqi sand is a great color. The Iraqi sand really is a great color. It's just warm enough. It doesn't wash things out. So let's plate the machine gun and the muffler and we're ready to go. And we will not clear coat it at night. I need to have good visibility so I don't over clear coat it and have a problem. So we don't need to use a wet palette for this. We need Mr. Orange. And stuff's watery. Mr. Black. And this brush should do fine. Lighten it up a little bit more. And a little bit more after that. That's done. Headlamp. Mrs. White. The boxes on the rear of the tank. Would you believe they're fuel boxes? So Soviet tanks had either these fuel boxes that fit back there. So these welded boxes, they weren't connected to the tank. They were just like extra fuel drums. Or sometimes they carried drums. I can't imagine what kind of a problem these things would be because the welds would break. I mean, if this thing traveled, I'm sure they would have weld issues and they would have fuel leaking. All kinds of problems. I could only imagine. But that's what they used. So I'm going to have some with each. And for variety, the Chelyabinsk, and here you can tell the difference between weathering and not weathering. Well, you can't, because you see this big, you're getting this big shine line here from this uber light. And it still looks semi-glossish when it's not. So we'll have to do, why is there a wet spot here? What's going on here? What's the meaning of this? What's the meaning of that? I think it's near the water and probably got one little drop that went on there. But the Chelyabinsk one has that. The Chelyabinsk turret has that as well. All right, let's get the turret off so we don't have a problem. And I'm not 100% happy with how the headlights turn out. I've watched many videos on it to try to do it. I don't know that I'm happy with how anybody does them. I do the bottom half in almost white. And a little pop of white on the top. And at some point I'll probably find a better way to do it. And then I can just go in and paint a bunch of headlights. It's not a problem. Not like I can't do it after the fact. And I am old school. I highlight gunmetal stuff with metallic colors, not gray. I've seen other people do gray, and it looks good. I'm just scared shitless to do it. And this bastard should be good to go. Now you could go absolutely ballistic with this thing. You could start adding rust and stuff like that, you know, and you'd be done in a month, you know. Yeah. Looks terrible. It looks terrible on video. Just wait till you see the photos. Just wait till you see the photos. It looks terrible on video. Is it better like this? If you come at it from the other angle? Maybe. Let me rotate it. Maybe. It's the kickback off this light that is just brutal. Oh, wrong way. Got to move it the opposite way, I would think. I don't know. We'll see after. Whoa. Okay. The Chelyabinsk one. All right, where is... We can eliminate, let's go ahead and move this one in view so we can find it. Let's open the properties, and we're going to select the picture where the Chelyabinsk one is. Chelyabinsk being the name of the manufacturer of the factory that built the T-34s with its distinctive rounded-ish turret. It's not hard edge, it's kind of a soft edge. And there, it will be this top one. When will I be doing the basing? Well, I'd like to do it now, but it's not dry yet. So I may end up doing it off camera, but I've done it before. Some of my videos, it's the same way. I'm just going to paint this chocolate brown, and then dry brush these other two colors. Then I'll come in and measure where the tracks are, cut that out, scoop this stuff out, and then epoxy it down, and then put the grass on it, and should be ready to roll. You know, should be pretty easy. So, yeah, I may not do 104. I may not do 104s. I feel like, well, there's already a 4 in that one. I think I'm going to do this one right here. I think I'm going to do this one. And let's zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, we're going to do that one. He's already got 2 Russian tanks with red stars. And I mean, honestly, in a perfect world, they'd all have red stars. But they're kind of rarish. So... Now, is that all happening above that handle? Because if so, that's going to be some tricky... No, this one didn't have handles. No handles. Okay, then we're going to have to make it smaller than it's depicted here, so it all stays above that handle, or we're going to have problems on our hand. Okay. Fair enough. We know what the scenario is going in. Do our bases come with rounded corners? No. So let me show you. You asked me about bases the other day. Let me show you what I use for basing. These are industrial grade shims. They're about a 16th of an inch thick, and they are about 2 feet long. And these, I believe, are 3-inch increments. So if they're 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, yeah, 2 feet long, and they break apart here where you can see the break points. And then I just take fingernail clippers and clip the ends. And these came free from work. And the only problem with these have is that I can't buy more. And for larger vehicles like Panthers, JS2s, KVs, they're longer than this dimension by a lot. So I don't mind having some overhang. Like these T-34s have some overhang on them. The base is just so you can move it by the base. And it also gives you some kind of an environment that the tank is sitting in, you know, kind of like a mini little diorama. And I kind of like the look of them. You know, some people are like, oh, bases, I don't like that. Well, you know, they are magnetized. So if you need to travel with them, you can put them on a tray and they're not flying all over the place. They can behave a little bit better that way. You know, for the larger vehicles, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm sure I could probably come across some plastic thing that's equivalent. I like the plastic because I don't have to worry about it warping, because it won't. And yeah, actually, let me take this picture. We're not going to use it. So let's go ahead and nix it by going like so. Okay. All right. Yeah, the problem with the cough is it's basically been unproductive. So you're not getting anywhere coughing. Okay. Let's get our helping hands and get the low version down here. Grip it by something that's not going to be visible. And get this back out here. Which side's the white on? On one side or the other. I guess it's over here. See, now I've encroached on my area. And this is way too much stuff on my board, my work area, than I'm used to. Start to get defensive. Get up off me. All right, this stuff should still be good, and we should have some happy liquid around here somewhere. That's tinted. I don't want to tint this darker than I need to. Does it really affect it that much? No, not really. Okay. All right, we'll let you get away with it this time. Let's get a little shim here so we can play with the color before we put it down. Make sure it's being applied how we want it to. And we got like a squishy hexagon with a 2 on it. Okay? So it's kind of in the middle of that panel. So we're going to put it over that handle. So we don't want the bottom or the top. The bottom and the top are the confining features. So let's go ahead and put those down. And if I make it longer than that, it's going to be real squishy. So we're going to come down to a point here, come down to a point there, come down to a point there, come down to a point there. Okay, so we've got a diamond-like symbol there. We can clean that up a little bit. To scour your local equivalent stores. Yeah, I just like the plastic because you don't ever have to worry about it. I like that it's black because, you know, it's kind of neutral. Yeah. So that's our squishy little hex there that we need to put a numeral 2 in, and then a 7 and a 1 below it, and they're not directly below it; they're off to one side a little bit. So I'm actually going to take artistic license and I'm going to center it with it because it's going to look better. And the 7, what style is the 7 guy in? Okay, it's got the little center boss and is the 1 flush or has it got a tail on it? The 1 does have a little tail. Okay. All right, so we're going to put the 1. Let's put the 1 in first. And then we're going to put the 7. And 1 has a little tail, and so does the 7. And the 7 has a thing between it. And then we need to put a 2 up here. Now, I like how the 2 turned out, but it's actually a little too long for the 2. So I'm going to actually shorten that hex a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And the way you erase stuff is you just repaint it with the same core color. And that is over on the other side. Here's where the green's all over here. So let's go ahead and, we don't want this to be too watery. We want this to cover pretty well. It's still too watery. Still too watery. Damn it, man. Okay. Okay, now we'll come in with that white. Close the sides in. And we'll clean that up a little bit. The 71 turned like spot on. Okay. Now, a normal person would go ahead and fill this whole side out, but I'm not a normal person. So I actually got more detail on there than I would have wanted. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side equivalently. And then we'll fill both of them together. And we need to move you out of the way because you're over in an area that you shouldn't be in. Okay. So, let's do the top line a little bit different. Okay, since we kind of learned from our little experience. And the white's not over here. So, let's go back. Here's the white. Okay. We're going to drop the two lines. Let's put this in a way that that I can rest my wrist on the table. Okay. It's about there. Now we can draw a little happy little 2 in there. Hot damn. Okay, and let's close in the edges. And we'll have to clean that one up a little bit, but that one turned out even better. Okay, and then we do a little 71 down there, a little 71 action. Yep. 71 has a little tail here, little tail there, and across the 7 there. All right, now we'll get some green and we'll clean that up. Must be coming up to midnight. Has your opinion changed with regard to the battle mat? No. No. Takes good photos. I contacted them and they're going to try to make it right. So we'll see. There'll be a part 2 to it. To be continued. Honestly, the shine is the biggest problem. you go through a lot of effort to make all your figures like basically flat, because otherwise it's reflecting light. You know, you're doing all this effort to kind of put shadows where you want them, highlights where you want them, and then the shine adds stuff where it's not supposed to be. Okay. All right, now we can go in with a white again and really crisp that stuff up. You know, on one hand, I would love to make something with teddy bear fur. But on the other hand is, I already have plenty of things to do. That's going to make a mess. I'm going to have to do it in the garage. My wife's going to hate me. You got all this nylon shit everywhere. And I would. I'd have nylon shit everywhere. I've seen other people do it. It's messy as crap. It's like trying to, you know, tar a dog, you know, I would imagine. And, you know, it's not exactly something I'm looking forward to. I've seen the end results. They look pretty darn good. But I got enough stuff to do. I don't need... Ooh, we could do this, maybe. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe we could just do this. You got to cut corners somewhere, and maybe the terrain mat is the place to do it. You know. I also have some terrain that I've had for 25 years that's by this company that's out of paper. And I forget what the name of the manufacturer is. It's somewhere here in the U.S. that makes it. He's at every Historicon show, and it's like paper terrain, I think is what the name of it is. And the stuff looks pretty good. I just haven't had the huevos to put it together. It just doesn't seem very forgiving. Like if I screw up and use the wrong glue and leave glue marks, I'm not going to be happy with it. But at some point, I need to shit or get off the pot. And I've had it for 25 years. And there are Eastern Front buildings. I have like a little village or whatever. It's like 5 or 6 buildings and fences and stuff like that. And, you know, that would save me from painting buildings. Now, I'm not opposed to painting buildings, but that could save me from doing that, and I already have it. So I'm interested in maybe looking and see if that's an option. One of these days, I'm sit around and do that now that we've got some Soviet stuff in the works. Okay, so we've got our turret here for the Chelyabinsk tank. You know, and it's not exciting, but that's how most T-34s were, not exciting. It's almost 10. So, yep, 10 p.m. Yep. Okay, I did forget to do one thing. And that was this German Camel Black. I've got some other track links, which are the ones here on the hull that we need to paint out. And I find that this color is better than making them true, oxidized, making them very orange, or making them very metallic. I've been pretty happy with the way this has worked as a base color. for anything tracky. And you can see the difference there. The color doesn't mean so much because you're getting a different color, but you can see the contrast on the edge of the turret really makes those details pop on there. And I am going to do some vehicles with open hatches. I'm just not going to do this first batch because I'm getting bogged down and all that. There's one vehicle, there's one version of the T-34 that I've seen. It's this version here with a camouflage, the 1941 version, with a camouflage that's almost a snowy one that has like almost like a blue and white. It almost looks like a Yak fighter. I don't know if it's accurate, but I'm going to paint one of the command tanks like that because it is just beautiful looking. Some of those Soviet aircraft really have some beautiful colors on them, between the light blues, the grays, and the whites that they use, plus with a red star on them. It's just a really attractive looking vehicle. And the tank is kind of done in the same venue of that. Now, it may end up being one of those things kind of like how people always get the counter scheme wrong, where they want to put the blue in it when it doesn't really have any blue. But whatever, we'll figure it out. But that tank looks really, really pretty, and I think I'm going to do one of those as a command tank. The problem with the T-34 and having a guy showing up and popping out is, it's just for visual effect, just for some variety. Because if the commander is sticking his head out of the hatch, there's no gunner. I mean, the commander is the gunner. So you're not going to engage anybody with the coax machine gun or the main armament if the commander is peeking his head out of the tank. So, and that happens in several vehicles. Panzer II, same thing, same problem. So he's overtaxed and he's trying to do everything himself. So anyway, so it's almost 10 o'clock. I think I'm actually going to call this one a wrap because I do need to find that little headlight and put it back on. It was extremely flimsy to put on in the spot where it is, and that's why it fell off. But it's around here somewhere before we get to finishing this one. But we did get to do the labeling on it, on this Chelyabinsk tank, and they are supposed to look plain, but we will see once they're on the base. Being on a base makes a huge difference, and flat coating them makes a big difference as well. So, but anyhow, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good night.